I discovered my wife secretly mocked me in a girls-only group chat for months, so I exposed her publicly and ended a marriage built on humiliation. So, when I walked through the front door, the house felt unusually quiet. I called out her name but got no response. That is when I noticed her tablet sitting on the kitchen counter, still open and buzzing with notifications. Now, I am not the type to snoop through someone's personal stuff, but the screen was right there, and I could see it was some kind of group chat blowing up with messages. What caught my attention was seeing my name pop up repeatedly in the preview text. Curiosity got the better of me. I picked up the tablet expecting to see something innocent, maybe her friends asking how I was doing or planning something nice for us. Instead, what I found made my blood run cold. The group chat was called Girls Only, No Husbands Allowed, and it had been active for months. As I scrolled through the recent messages, I saw her describing me in ways that made my stomach turn. She was telling her friends about how I apparently snored like a freight train and how I could not figure out the dishwasher if my life depended on it. But it got worse, much worse. She had shared a photo of me from last weekend when I was washing my car in the driveway, wearing old clothes and completely unaware she was taking pictures. The caption read, "Look at this fashion disaster trying to be manly. You should see how seriously he takes washing this beat-up sedan." The responses from her friends were even more brutal. Laughing emojis, comments about how men never grow up, and suggestions for more husband fails she should document. I kept scrolling, feeling like I was watching a train wreck in slow motion. There were screenshots of texts I had sent her, taken completely out of context and presented as examples of my supposed stupidity. A grocery list I had made was there too, with her friends mocking my handwriting and the fact that I had written "good cheese" instead of specifying a brand. The worst part was reading how she described our private moments. She had told them about the time I tried to cook her a surprise dinner for our anniversary and accidentally burned the sauce. In her version, I was a hopeless case in the kitchen who could not boil water without supervision. What she did not tell them was that despite the minor kitchen mishap, we had laughed about it together and ended up having one of the best nights we had had in months. As I continued reading, a pattern emerged. Every small mistake, every moment of vulnerability, every time I had been genuinely myself around her had been transformed into content for her entertainment group. I was her personal comedian, except I was not in on the joke. One message from just 3 days ago really hit me hard. She had written, "You guys will not believe what he did yesterday. He spent 20 minutes looking for his glasses while they were on his head. I swear sometimes I feel like I am married to a sitcom character." Her friends had responded, with the usual battery of laughing emojis and comments about how typical that was for men. But I remembered that day clearly. I had been stressed about a work deadline, and yes, I had been absent-minded about my glasses. When she pointed out where they were, I had laughed at myself and thanked her. It was a simple human moment that couples share all the time. Except in her retelling, it became evidence of my incompetence. I set the tablet down and walked to the living room window, trying to process what I had just discovered. The woman I had been married to for 4 years, the person I trusted most in the world, had been systematically humiliating me behind my back for months. The sound of her car pulling into the driveway snapped me back to reality. I quickly put the tablet back exactly where I found it and positioned myself on the couch, pretending to watch television. My mind was racing, but I knew I needed to stay calm and think this through carefully. She walked in with shopping bags, greeting me with the same warm smile she always wore. "Hey, you are home early. How was your day?" I looked at her. This woman who had just spent months making me the butt of jokes with her friends and managed to respond normally. It was good. Finished up early for once. As she moved around the house, unpacking her purchases and chatting about her day, I watched her with new eyes. Every gesture, every comment, every interaction felt different. Now, I found myself wondering if this conversation would end up in tomorrow's group chat, probably with some commentary about how I was just sitting there watching television like a typical lazy husband. The hardest part was realizing that this was not just about a few harmless jokes between friends. This was about respect, or rather, the complete lack of it. The woman I had vowed to love and honor had been dishonoring me in the most personal way possible, turning our marriage into entertainment for others. But as I sat there watching her go about her evening routine as if nothing had happened, I made a decision. I was not going to confront her immediately. I was not going to explode in anger or demand explanations. Instead, I was going to be strategic about this. If she wanted to make me her comedy material, then I needed to understand the full scope of what I was dealing with. I needed to know exactly how deep this went and how long it had been happening. Because one thing was certain, this was not going to continue, not anymore. The next few days were the hardest acting job of my life. I had to pretend everything was normal while planning my investigation into just how far this humiliation had gone. I started paying closer attention to her patterns. Every morning she would grab her phone and tablet, disappear into the bathroom for what she called her morning routine, and I could hear the familiar ping of group chat notifications. What I thought was just typical social media scrolling was actually her daily report to her audience about whatever husband fail she could manufacture from our previous evening. The opportunity I needed came that Saturday. She announced she was going to spend the afternoon shopping with her sister, something that usually took hours. The moment her car left the driveway, I went straight for her tablet. This time, I was not just stumbling across messages. I was conducting a full investigation. I scrolled back through weeks of conversation history, and what I found was worse than I had imagined. This was not an occasional venting about marriage difficulties. This was systematic character assassination disguised as entertainment. She had created what was essentially a catalog of my supposed failures. There were categories: kitchen disasters, fashion failures, technology struggles, and something called husband logic moments. Each category was filled with photos, screenshots, and detailed stories about me. The kitchen disasters section included pictures of me cooking, taken without my knowledge, with captions like, "Watch the master chef burn toast," and "Today's victim, innocent pasta." The photos were taken from unflattering angles, catching me in moments when I was concentrated on what I was doing, making me look confused or incompetent. But the fashion failures section was particularly brutal. She had photographed my clothes hanging in the closet, focusing on older items that I wore for working around the house or exercising. The captions mocked everything from my ancient sneakers to my collection of free promotional t-shirts from work events. The technology struggles section documented every time I had asked her a question about her phone or computer, or any moment when I had needed help with some new app or device. She had turned my willingness to ask for help into evidence of my incompetence with modern technology. The husband logic moments section was the most personal. These were stories about my decision-making process, my way of organizing things, my approach to solving problems around the house. She had taken my logical thinking patterns and presented them as examples of how men's brains work differently for her friends' amusement. I discovered that I had been assigned nicknames in this group. They called me the Project, because apparently I was her ongoing source of entertainment material. Some of her friends had started referring to me as your comedy show in their responses. But what really got to me was finding a conversation from 2 months ago where one of her friends had asked if she ever felt bad about sharing all these stories about me. Her response was telling: "He will never know. And honestly, marriage is hard enough without a sense of humor about it. Besides, he does give me so much material to work with." So this was her sense of humor about marriage, making me the punchline. I found videos too, short clips of me doing ordinary things around the house, filmed secretly and shared with commentary. Me trying to assemble a bookshelf with her narrating about my creative approach to following instructions. Me looking for something in the garage with her commentary about my systematic searching method that apparently involved checking the same box 3 times. The most recent addition was from just yesterday. She had recorded me singing in the shower, something I did unconsciously while getting ready for work. The audio was muffled, but you could clearly hear me, and she had captioned it, "Daily concert series from the bathroom." I think he believes he is the next American Idol. That one hit differently because singing in the shower was something I did when I was genuinely happy. It was a private moment of joy, and she had violated that privacy to create content for her entertainment group. As I scrolled through months of this material, I realized something important. This was not just about her needing to vent about marriage frustrations to her friends. This was about her needing to position herself as superior to me in front of her social circle. Every story was crafted to make her look like the long-suffering, patient wife dealing with an incompetent husband. She was the smart one, the organized one, the one who had everything figured out. I was the comic relief, the lovable idiot who needed her guidance to function. But here is what her friends did not know, and what she conveniently left out of her stories. I was the one who handled all our finances, planned our vacations, maintained our cars, and solved most of the practical problems in our household. When something broke, when we needed to make important decisions, when there was a crisis to handle, she turned to me. None of that made it into her group chat stories. I took screenshots of the most damaging conversations, saved them to a secure folder, and made sure to cover my tracks completely. If she was going to document my life for her entertainment, then I was going to document her behavior for my protection. By the time she returned from shopping, I had a complete picture of what I was dealing with. This had been going on for at least 8 months, possibly longer. It involved 5 of her closest friends, and it had become a regular source of entertainment for their group. She walked in carrying shopping bags and immediately started telling me about her day, completely unaware that I now knew exactly what she had probably been discussing with her sister. I listened to her talk about sales she had found and people she had seen, wondering if any of this conversation would end up in tomorrow's group chat update. That night, as we sat watching television together, I observed her differently. When a commercial came on that I commented about, I watched her face to see if she was mentally filing away my reaction for future content. When I got up to get a snack from the kitchen, I wondered if she was taking mental notes about my snack choices or the way I moved around the house. The trust was completely broken, but she had no idea. I had all the evidence I needed to confront her immediately, but I realized that would be playing into her hands. She would probably find a way to turn even that confrontation into content for her group, painting me as the overreacting husband who could not take a joke. Instead, I decided to be strategic about this. If she wanted to make me her comedy material for her friends, then I needed to understand her audience better. I needed to know exactly who these women were and how they might react when the tables got turned, because I was going to turn those tables, but I was going to do it properly. The perfect opportunity to witness this humiliation firsthand came sooner than I expected. She announced that her book club was meeting at our house the following Thursday evening, and that I should make myself scarce, or at least try not to do anything embarrassing while they are here. That comment took on a whole new meaning now that I knew what was really going on. Instead of disappearing as she suggested, I decided to stay. I told her I had some work to catch up on and would be in my home office, but that I would be happy to help if they needed anything. She seemed slightly annoyed by this, but could not really object without seeming rude. I set up my laptop in the office, but positioned myself where I could hear their conversation clearly. I also made sure my phone was ready to record audio if needed. If she was going to perform for her audience, I wanted to document the show. The women arrived around 7 o'clock in the evening, and I recognized most of them from the group chat profile pictures I had studied. There was her college roommate, her coworker from the marketing firm, 2 neighbors from our street, and her sister. These were the people who had been laughing at me for months. For the first hour, they actually discussed the book they were supposedly reading. But as the wine started flowing and the conversation became more relaxed, I heard my name come up. "Speaking of disasters," she said, and I could hear the shift in her tone that meant she was about to deliver a punchline. "You guys will not believe what happened in our kitchen yesterday. Here we go." She launched into a story about how I had tried to make breakfast and apparently somehow managed to burn scrambled eggs. According to her version, I had been standing there looking confused with a spatula in one hand and my phone in the other, probably Googling how to cook eggs. The women laughed appreciatively, and I heard one of them say, "How do you even burn scrambled eggs? That is like burning water." But here is what really happened. I had been making eggs while taking an important work call. The eggs did get a little overdone because I was distracted by the conversation, but they were perfectly edible. When she came into the kitchen, I had jokingly said, "Well, that could have gone better," and she had laughed with me about it. In her retelling, I became the incompetent husband who could not handle basic cooking while she was the amused observer of my failures. The stories continued throughout the evening. She told them about how I had gotten lost using the global positioning system last weekend, when what actually happened was that I had taken a different route, because I knew about construction delays that the global positioning system had not updated for yet. We had arrived at our destination faster than expected, but in her version, I was the stubborn man who refused to trust technology. She shared the story about my glasses being on my head, which I had already seen in the group chat. But hearing her tell it aloud with the theatrical gestures and exaggerated expressions made it clear that she had been practicing this routine. This was not casual conversation about marriage life. This was performance. The worst moment came when one of her friends asked if I was getting any better at adulting, and she responded with a dramatic sigh. "He tries so hard," she said in a tone that was supposed to sound affectionate but came across as condescending. "Last week he was so proud because he remembered to take out the trash without being reminded. I did not have the heart to tell him that he put it out on the wrong day." More laughter from the group and comments about how they are all like that, and at least he is trying. The trash comment was particularly infuriating because it was completely fabricated. I had never put the trash out on the wrong day. I had been handling the trash schedule for our entire marriage without any issues. She had literally invented a failure to get a laugh from her friends. As the evening progressed, I realized I was watching something more complex than just wife complaints. She was performing a character version of herself, the long-suffering but patient wife who had learned to find humor in her husband's incompetence. Her friends were responding to this performance, playing their roles as the supportive audience who validated her frustrations. But what struck me most was how much she was enjoying this. She was animated, confident, clearly energized by being the center of attention and the source of entertainment for the group. This was not reluctant venting about marriage difficulties. This was her favorite hobby. Around 9:30 in the evening, I decided to make my presence known. I emerged from the office and walked to the kitchen to get some water, making sure to pass through the living room where they were gathered. "Do not mind me," I said pleasantly, "just grabbing some water. You ladies having a good discussion about the book?" The room went slightly quiet, and I could see a few of them exchanging glances. My wife's expression changed too, becoming more guarded. "Oh yes," one of the neighbors said. "We were just talking about the main character's relationship with his wife." "Ah," I replied, taking a sip of water. "Those fictional husbands can be quite entertaining, cannot they? All their amusing little failures and mishaps makes for good storytelling." I maintained eye contact with my wife as I said this, and I saw something flicker across her face. Not quite recognition, but a moment of uncertainty. "Well, I will let you get back to your book discussion," I continued. "Do not let me interrupt the entertainment." As I walked back to my office, I heard the conversation resume, but with less energy than before. My brief appearance had shifted the dynamic somehow, introduced a note of tension that had not been there before. I spent the rest of the evening in my office, but I could hear that the tone of their gathering had changed. There was less laughter, more actual discussion about the book, and they wrapped up earlier than usual. After the women left, she came to find me in the office. "How was your work?" she asked, but there was something different in her voice. "Productive," I replied. "Got a lot accomplished while you were entertaining your friends with stories about fictional characters." She studied my face for a moment, clearly trying to read whether there was any hidden meaning in my words. "The book club discussions can get pretty animated," she said carefully. "I am sure they can. Some people are natural storytellers. They can make even the most ordinary situations sound dramatic and amusing." We looked at each other for a long moment, and I could see her trying to decide if I was implying something or just making conversation. "Well," she said finally, "I am going to get ready for bed." As she left the office, I knew that something had shifted. She was not certain what I knew or did not know, but she was no longer completely comfortable with her secret entertainment routine. That was exactly where I wanted her to be. Uncertain and slightly off balance, because the next phase of my plan was going to require her to be completely unprepared for what was coming. The opportunity I had been waiting for came 3 weeks later when she decided to throw a dinner party for her birthday. She invited the entire group chat crew, plus a few additional friends and family members, 20 people total, including her parents and mine. This was going to be her biggest audience yet, and I could tell she was excited about it. She spent days planning the menu, decorating the house, and coordinating with everyone. What she did not realize was that I was planning too. During her party preparation, I noticed her behavior had become even more exaggerated. She was clearly collecting material for future group chat stories. When I helped move furniture for the party setup, she made comments about my creative approach to rearranging things. When I suggested a different wine pairing for the dinner, she gave me that patronizing smile that meant she was filing away another husband logic moment. But I'd been documenting everything. Screenshots of group chat conversations, audio recordings from the book club evening, notes about fabricated stories versus actual events. I had built a comprehensive case file of exactly how she had been humiliating me. The day of the party, I volunteered to help with everything. I was the perfect helpful husband, setting up chairs, preparing appetizers, making sure everything was ready for her special day. She seemed pleased by my enthusiasm, probably thinking it would give her more material to work with later. The guests started arriving around 6 o'clock in the evening. I played my role perfectly, greeting everyone warmly, making sure drinks were filled, being the charming host. Several people commented on what a great team we made and how lucky she was to have such a supportive husband, if only they knew. As dinner progressed, I waited for the right moment. It came during dessert when the conversation had become relaxed and everyone was feeling comfortable. She had just finished telling a story about our recent vacation, embellishing details to make me sound like I had been confused by the hotel check-to in process. "That reminds me," I said, standing up with my wine glass. "I wanted to share something special tonight." Everyone turned their attention to me, expecting a birthday toast. "Most of you know that my wife has an amazing talent for storytelling," I began, looking directly at the group chat women who were scattered around the table. "She has this incredible ability to take everyday moments and turn them into entertainment." A few people nodded and smiled, including her parents, who were clearly proud of their daughter's social skills. In fact, I continued, she has become quite the content creator. She documents our life together and shares it with her friends in ways that I am sure many of you would find fascinating. I could see her starting to look uncomfortable, but she was trapped by the social situation. She could not interrupt what appeared to be a complimentary toast without seeming rude. For instance, I said, pulling out my phone, she has this wonderful group chat where she shares photos and stories about our daily life. Would you like to hear some examples? The room was completely quiet now, and I could see several of the group chat women exchanging worried glances. Here is a recent one, I said, reading from my screenshots. She shared a photo of me washing my car last weekend with the caption, "Look at this fashion disaster trying to be manly. You should see how seriously he takes washing this beat-up sedan." I looked up at the room where people were starting to realize this was not going in the direction they had expected. Or this one, I continued, where she recorded me singing in the shower and shared it with the comment, "Daily concert series from the bathroom. I think he believes he is the next American Idol." Her face had gone completely pale, and I could see her parents looking confused and increasingly uncomfortable. But my personal favorite, I said, maintaining my pleasant tone, is when she told her group chat that I put the trash out on the wrong day, and she did not have the heart to correct me, which is interesting because I have been handling our trash schedule correctly for 4 years. But I suppose accuracy is not as important as getting a good laugh from your audience. The silence in the room was deafening. Several people were staring at their plates, clearly not knowing how to respond to this unexpected revelation. The group chat is called Girls Only, No Husbands Allowed, I explained. And I have been the star of the show for 8 months now. Everything from my clothing choices to my cooking attempts to my problem-solving methods has been documented and shared for entertainment purposes. I walked around the table slowly, making eye contact with each of the group chat members. They even gave me nicknames. I am called The Project because apparently I provide ongoing material for their amusement. One of her friends started to say something, but I held up my hand. "I am not finished," I said calmly, because the really interesting part is how creative the storytelling has become. Real events get embellished, failures get fabricated, and private moments get violated, all in service of maintaining my wife's reputation as the long-suffering spouse married to an incompetent man. I turned back to face her directly. So, I wanted to take this opportunity in front of all the people who matter to us to address this situation properly. The room was so quiet you could hear people breathing. "I have spent months being your comedy material," I said, my voice remaining steady and controlled. "Tonight, you get to experience what it feels like to be the punchline." I raised my wine glass. "Happy birthday, darling. I hope your friends enjoyed the show as much as I have enjoyed preparing this presentation." The aftermath was immediate and brutal. Her parents looked mortified. My parents looked shocked and disappointed. Several of the group chat women were staring at their hands, clearly wishing they could disappear. She tried to salvage the situation. "It was not like that," she stammered. "It was just harmless venting between friends. Every wife does it." "Every wife secretly records her husband in the shower?" I asked. "Every wife fabricates stories about her husband's failures? Every wife turns her marriage into entertainment content for 8 months without her husband's knowledge?" The questions hung in the air, and no one came to her defense. Her sister tried to help. "Maybe this is something you two should discuss privately." "Privacy is an interesting concept," I replied. "I thought we had privacy in our marriage, but apparently I was wrong about that." The party effectively ended at that moment. People started making excuses about early mornings and babysitters. Within 30 minutes, the house was empty except for the two of us and a table full of abandoned dessert plates. She stood in our living room, still wearing her birthday dress, looking completely devastated. "How long have you known?" she asked quietly. "Long enough to understand exactly what this was," I replied. "Long enough to document everything properly. I never meant to hurt you. You meant to humiliate me. The fact that you did not think I would find out does not change your intent." She started to cry, but I felt nothing. After months of being reduced to a comedy character in her social circle, her tears seemed like just another performance. "What happens now?" she asked. I looked around our house at the evidence of the party she had planned, at the life we had built together that she had been systematically undermining for entertainment. "Now," I said, "you get to find out what consequences look like." The fallout from the birthday party spread faster than I had anticipated. By the next morning, her phone was buzzing constantly with calls and messages from people who had been there. She spent most of the day trying to do damage control, calling friends and family members to explain her side of the story. I could hear her in the other room, her voice getting more desperate with each conversation. "It was not as bad as he made it sound," she kept saying. "He took everything out of context. but the evidence was clear, and I had made sure of that. The screenshots, the recordings, the documented pattern of behavior over 8 months. There was no spinning this into something innocent. Around noon, her sister came over to try to mediate the situation. She sat us both down in the living room and attempted to facilitate what she called an honest conversation. "Look," her sister said, "what happened last night was brutal for everyone involved, but maybe we can find a way to move forward from this." My wife immediately jumped on this opportunity. "I know I made mistakes," she said, turning to face me. "I got caught up in the group dynamic and I did not think about how it would affect you, but we can fix this. I will apologize to everyone. I will leave the group chat whatever you want." I sat there listening to her bargaining, offering to make changes and modifications to her behavior as if this was a negotiation rather than a consequence. "You are missing the point," I said calmly. "This is not about fixing what you did. This is about who you are." Her sister looked confused. "What do you mean for 8 months she systematically documented and shared the most private aspects of our marriage for entertainment? She fabricated stories when reality was not amusing enough. She violated my privacy, recorded me without consent, and turned our relationship into a comedy show." I looked directly at my wife. Someone who respects their partner does not do those things. Someone who loves their spouse does not humiliate them for social validation. "But I do love you," she protested. "I never meant for it to go this far. You recorded me in the shower and shared it with your friends," I replied. "At what point exactly did you think you had gone too far?" The room went quiet, and I could see her sister starting to understand the gravity of what had really happened. Over the next few days, the social consequences continued to unfold. Several of the group chat women called to apologize, clearly embarrassed about their participation in the months-long humiliation campaign. Her coworker mentioned that people at her office were talking about what had happened at the party. But what surprised me most was how she responded to these consequences. Instead of taking responsibility, she became defensive and angry. "You humiliated me in front of my parents," she said during one of our increasingly tense conversations. "You could have handled this privately." "Like you handled our marriage privately?" I asked. "Your group chat had 5 members. My presentation had 20 people. I would say I was actually quite restrained." She tried a different approach, suggesting that we go to couples counseling to work through this together. But I had already made my decision about what came next. "Counseling assumes that both people want to fix the relationship," I told her. "I am not interested in fixing this. I am interested in ending it." The word divorce hung in the air between us like a bomb that had finally exploded. "You cannot be serious," she said. "You are going to end our marriage over some harmless jokes between friends." "I am ending our marriage because you spent 8 months proving that you do not respect me as a person or as your husband." She tried tears, anger, bargaining, and even attempted to get both sets of parents involved to pressure me to reconsider. But I had moved beyond emotion into pure logic. Trust once broken, this completely could not be repaired with apologies and promises. She had shown me exactly who she was when she thought I was not watching, and that person was not someone I wanted to be married to. The final conversation we had about our future was brief and decisive.
"So that is it?" she asked. 4 years of marriage down the drain because you cannot take a joke. I looked at her, this woman who still did not understand what she had done wrong.
"No," I said. 4 years of marriage down the drain because you turned me into one." 6 months later, I was sitting in my new place, a house I had bought on the other side of town, reading through the final divorce papers that had arrived that morning. Everything was officially settled. The divorce process had been surprisingly straightforward. Once her lawyers saw the evidence I had compiled, there was not much room for negotiation. The documented pattern of humiliation and privacy violations made it clear that this was not a case of mutual incompatibility or growing apart. She had tried one last manipulation during the mediation process, suggesting that I was overreacting to normal marriage frustrations, and that my public exposure of her behavior was vindictive and cruel. But the mediator was not impressed when I presented months of documented evidence showing systematic humiliation and fabricated stories. The financial settlement was fair but firm. I kept my retirement accounts. She kept hers. We split the joint assets down the middle. I bought out her share of the house we had lived in together, then sold it and moved somewhere with no memories attached. What surprised me most was how quickly word spread through our social circle about what had really happened. The group chat women, apparently feeling guilty about their participation, had started talking. The story of the birthday party revelation became legendary among people who knew us. I heard through mutual friends that she had tried to restart her social life, but the humiliation campaign had backfired spectacularly. People were uncomfortable around her now, wondering if their private conversations and personal moments would become her next entertainment content. Her sister called me a few weeks after the divorce was finalized. She is struggling, she told me. She lost most of her friend group, and people at work treat her differently now. I think she finally understands what she did wrong. Understanding what she did wrong is not the same as being sorry she got caught, I replied. She asked about you sometimes, wonders how you are doing. I am doing exactly what someone does when they remove toxic people from their life, I said. I am thriving, and I was. The stress of living with someone who was constantly looking for ways to diminish me had lifted completely. I had energy for hobbies again, confidence in social situations, and peace in my own home. I started dating again after a few months, but with a much clearer understanding of what respect looked like in a relationship. The experience had taught me to recognize the signs of someone who saw me as entertainment rather than as a partner. The woman I was seeing now, a teacher I had met through a hiking group, had never once made me feel like my thoughts or actions were material for her amusement. When I told her the story of my divorce, her reaction was immediate and clear. That is not normal behavior, she said. That is emotional abuse disguised as humor. Hearing someone else validate what I had experienced confirmed that my decision to end the marriage had been correct. The final chapter of this story came unexpectedly. I ran into my ex-wife at a coffee shop downtown about 8 months after our divorce was final. She looked tired and seemed genuinely surprised to see me. "You look good," she said, and there was something different in her voice. Less of the performance, more genuine. "I feel good," I replied honestly. "I have been thinking about what happened," she continued, "about what I did. I understand now why you reacted the way I did." I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation or another attempt to rewrite history. "Do you really?" I asked. "I turned you into a character instead of treating you like a person," she said quietly. "I was so focused on getting laughs and validation from my friends that I forgot you were a real human being with feelings." It was the first time she had acknowledged the actual problem rather than minimizing it as harmless jokes. "That is accurate," I said. "I am sorry," she said, and for the first time, it sounded genuine. "I know it is too late for us, but I wanted you to know that I understand what I did wrong." I nodded, accepting her apology, not because it changed anything, but because it confirmed that leaving had been the right choice. "I hope you find someone who sees you as a partner instead of as content," I told her. As I walked away from that coffee shop, I realized that my freedom story was complete. I had taken a situation where I was being systematically humiliated and turned it into a lesson about self-respect and boundaries. She had made me her comedy material, but I had made myself the hero of my own story. And that story had a very satisfying ending.
Coming mid. Alright, I guess I'm the only one going mid. Fuck, bro. This is pretty low, but... I don't know, I thought we were cooking. Turns out they just have a lot.
Our yellow walker is under attack.
Don't go mid, that Finn has resistances.
You'll be the last one standing. The spirit urn is waiting to be claimed.
I mean, I fucking killed her just fine. I soloed her. She got cooked.
They're about to pay.
Headed to blue.
No, mid lane. Mid lane, mid lane.
Time to die. Could be coming for me any minute now.
Humble lash.
These are your final moments.
York is under attack.
What the fuck was that?
Greenwich is under attack.
This isn't over yet. This won't be as easy as you think.
And I'm fucking out of there.
Walker.
The whole team showed up? Yeah, I saw your floor ult though.
The hidden pin to open your third
I have no clue where I am.
I'll take you down with me. Let's go for a little stroll.
Good luck completing the ritual.
Alright, let's see if we can make a play mid. I'm coming.
They've taken our blue.
Oh, there's 3. It's a bit sketch. There's 4.
They took out Ray.
I'll stack as many bodies as it takes to win.
Walker is under attack.
Wasn't it? It's time to play.
Flash is here. Ruh-roh.
Streets are mine to prowl.
Flash kick.
Flash on the left.
Throwing doom.
Did I seriously just get solo Lash ulted into Dynamo? Are we fucking for real? Like, what?
Narrator dialogue. Close. But deadlock window. Narrator update. Pay. Windows.msn.com/discuss scan. Narrator window heading level 1. Welcome to narrator. This is narrator home, where you can get exiting narrator.
What the fuck?
Pay. Narrator updates window.
Next.
Button. Page.
Done.
But Steam window. Home. Search. R. Pane. Steam. No. Steam window. Search. R. Narrate. Pane. System tray overflow window.
What the fuck did I do?
Narrator.
Button. 1 of 20. Narrator. Scan. Narrator window heading level 1. Welcome to narrator. Settings window. Scan off. Narrator. Exiting narrator.
Bro, what? There's a hotkey to do that?
A blue walker is under
What
attack.
the fuck is that?
I won't lie. I don't know what that does, but my kid says, oh.
The spirit urn is waiting to be claimed.
Prepared for this. They were right. There is no mercy. Adieu.
Dude. I don't know, bro. I don't know. Where's the... I think we just, like, lose, right?
Catching me.
Because my character can't farm. I'm just fucked. Like, we're turbo behind. The only person slightly okay, we're going okay, is Ez. Literally every person on the enemy team just fucking rolls my ass. I don't have anything to do.
Fair enough.
Is Ez a long-time player? Of course. Ez is my goat.
I'll be the last thing you see.
I fucked it.
I will leave a bloody trail in my wake. Maybe you are.
Let's try and kill McGinnis, maybe?
I see McGinnis. Death awaits. Some and I answer.
Well, their whole team showed up. Their whole team showed up, and I felt like McGinnis just wasn't fucking dying.
York is under attack.
I just don't. I can't kill her.
It's brutal out there, huh?
Time to move.
Never show fear.
They're about to.
My god. What a parry from her.